Well, welcome back to 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. Man, I should have saved this film for Black History Month, but it's pretty much of a derogatory film when you think of it. It's the Black Gestapo. Um, it was a Lee Frost Wes Bishop effort, and I'm sure it was aided by Bob Cressay, because it's basically the mob versus the black militants. And the mob has moved in and, are dealing drugs and they're harassing the people and, a black nurse gets attacked and raped. Whole bunch of fucking bad shit goes on. But then the black militants, one's a general who wants to do good for the community, and the other's a wannabe general played by Charles Robinson. That's right, the lovely Mac from Night Court. Yeah, that was I think it was his first or second film role. And yeah, he's the big militant guy that wants to take down Whitey. And there's a whole big thing going on. And basically, it's just a weird thing. Lee Frost was really adept at doing roughies. Dave Friedman said that there was only two guys he knew that could do a roughie the right way. One was H.G. Lewis, the other guy was Lee Frost. And of course, Lee Frost had paired up with Wes Bishop and Bob Cressay, and they had done a bunch of stuff. The Scavengers, which was a really racist Western. Hot Spur, which was another racist Western. Love Camp 7, which was a Nazi women in prison movie. So they had sort of a pedigree doing this stuff. So I don't know, it doesn't say anywhere where Cressay was involved in this, but he also collected Nazi memorabilia. And halfway into the film, these guys are wearing, the SS caps with the skull and crossbones and the fucking eagle with the little swastika in the middle of it. So I'm thinking maybe he was the costumer. I don't know. But anyway, it gets a little bit rough because now they want to strike back against the mob guys, which are extorting the whole community. So the one guy who was basically the rapist and the enforcer, I think he was played by Lee Frost, gets cornered in his bathtub by a bunch of these guys, and the general just, played by Charles Robinson, cuts his nuts off and leaves him to bleed to death in the bathtub. The other guy's driving around after making a collection, and two women pull up to him, and one of them is Ushi Dygard, who pops out one of her wonderful boobs, causing him to run off the road and go off basically this hill. And this is another one, a good Lee Frost shot of a great fucking shot of a car crash. And the guy's still in there and he throws out the money, but they blow up the car anyway, because he's a scumbag. Well, what happens is the guys that just pushed out the mob are just as bad at, if not worse, and really start roughing up the people and, have a compound and they're all generals and colonels and shit like that, and they're all wearing Nazi uniforms and screaming for vengeance and kill Whitey and shit. So the good general didn't know this. You're really on top of your shit, dude. So he has to intervene, and of course there's a pitched battle between the camps. It's only one of him, though. And he basically rigs up traps with fucking buckshot and explosives and shit like that and kills off just about everybody. Then there's a pitched battle with him and the bad general, and the bad general winds up in the swimming pool floating face up. And then the credits roll. Well, it's not a film you're going to take to see your fucking kids, that's for sure. It's just like one of those, it's just like this whole weird handful of films that these guys made. And I had read, Dave Friedman really put Lee Frost over as a director, and he says that Lee Frost was the original director on Race with the Devil. But I'm trying to think if I got this right. The studio asked for the outtakes for the day, and he said he didn't have any, and they said, okay, so everything you shot is usable footage? And he said, yeah, and they fired him and put Jack Starr in. I never made any sense to me. But he's really good at these, roughies and, fucking, for lack of better words, racist, themed films. And I remember, I think I did something on this before, and I wasn't aware of the whole thing about Bob Cressay and what had happened because there's a fucking incident. On the Echo DVD from Severin, there's an interview with this producer, this overseas producer, who says basically that, Cressay was a short, fat guy who always got his way. He was a pit bull. He would pit bull you into doing things. He would just persist and persist and persist. And I guess this guy distributed a bunch of his stuff overseas, and he said, like, the violence wouldn't fly. But, you know, some of the sex stuff would. So he said that he was with Cressy when this happened, that they were driving down the street and they saw this guy beating the crap out of this woman. And Cressy got out and he carried a gun and he had a dog that was a pit bull, a Staffordshire Terrier. And he approached the guy and put the gun against the back of the guy's head and said, "I'm making a citizen's arrest." The guy turned around, pulled out a gun and shot the dog and basically backed Cressy off until Cressy had to crawl under a car to hide. And the guy said, "I'm a cop, I'm an LA cop, and I'm going to kill you." And basically fired under the car, hitting Cressy a bunch of times. Cressy was all fucked up after that. He spent a lot of time in the hospital, and according to this producer, basically became a recluse and wouldn't come out of his office. And the guy also said that prior to him getting in this incident, he had a secret room in his office full of guns and hand grenades and Nazi stuff. So I know he had died soon after that, and I know that, you know, the other two had passed away, I believe, in their 70s years ago. So that's something nobody's ever really, you know, written a book about or gotten into, as far as I know, because these three seem like they were really Wild West on the West Coast. You know, we know about a bunch of guys, you know, on the East Coast and shit, but these guys just seem to be interesting because they, you know, some of the stuff they did was so fucking out there and so extreme, but, you know, for whatever it was, it worked and it drew money. And when they, you know, they did that Love Camp #7, I believe that was the first, you know, Nazi exploitation one to come out. I think Ilsa might have came out around the same time, but, you know, that was basically it. They didn't have a lot of, you know, all that Italian stuff. People ask me if that ever played 42nd Street, and honestly, I don't have any recollection of it. I think that shit went straight to video because I honestly think at that point in time, if you slop something like that, was it Nazi, oh shit. What if you just for shits and giggles? I think if you slap Nazi on a fucking marquee, there would be more problems than the N-word would have been or was. But anyway, there was a lot of shit you could get away with back then, but there was a lot of shit you maybe shouldn't try to get away with back then. And to be honest with you, I've seen, you know, some of the Italian ones, you know, Beast and Heat, and some of the other ones, and like it's like, man, those films are just fucked up in my estimation. You know, I put up with a lot of shit, and I got like a high tolerance for fucking crazy shit. But you know something? Some of the shit, the way it was put over, it's really fucking repulsive and nasty, and it gets to the point where it's anti-Semitic and very racist too. And you can look at Beast and Heat for what it is. It's fucking crazy. It's over the top and stuff. But you know, that Gestapo's last orgy and shit like that, nah, that just took it a little bit too fucking far. And most of these were released by the same company. I think it was World Video, or yeah, well, yeah, I think it was World Video. The clamshell ones, the same ones that released Jungle Holocaust and some other, I think, Italian war films and stuff. But that's the only way I ever saw them out. And that was, you know, mid-'80s when I was still wheeling and dealing. Every once in a while they'd show up on one of those labels, used. So I think that's how they came out. But personally, fuck them. They're junk to me. You know, I can't see any, you know, I could see shit in Love Camp #7 and Ilsa because, you know, that was Friedman behind it and some creative force and stuff. And, you know, they all knew it was fucking over the top and they all knew it was tongue-in-cheek and they were all trying to get away with something. And you could see that. This other shit, it's too fucking grim and depressing, and, you know, there's enough grim, depressing shit in the world today. So, well, that's the show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. And we'll catch you on the flip side.